Hi, I'm Elaine, this is Elaine is XYZ, and I've got some news to announce. I'm actually headed back to the United States. Life certainly is unpredictable. I had, after about a dozen of years not living there, always assumed that I would be forevermore the sister, the daughter, the aunt, the friend who just happens to live abroad. Well, that's not how job hunting played out, and now I find myself about to head to New York, and I'm surprisingly excited about the chance to start life there as a adulting adult. Now that I'm headed back to the United States, though, it's really making me reflect on where I've been these past 18, 19 months here in China. Especially since once I leave, the chances of me popping back over here in the near future are actually really slim. China's committing to its zero COVID strategy, which is very much limiting the amount of people who are able to travel from abroad over to here. Heck, it's even a little hard to travel in the country right now. Because of a couple of cases in Beijing, there's actually no way to get into the capital without quarantining first, even if you're coming from another city in China. And one of my friends actually went on a road trip where he had to get COVID tested 3 times during the course of that week because every city location would want to make sure that he was COVID free from the last city location that he was in. That's a lot of nostril picking. But that's a digression and not what I actually want to talk about. What I do want to talk about is that in these last 18 to 19 months, I actually went to a bunch of places in China, many I'd never been to before, and I filmed a lot of them. But then kind of got stuck trying to figure out how I wanted to showcase them, so I never did. I always thought that the idea would hit me at some point in time, and then if I needed to go back to these places to refilm, then I would. Now that that is an impossibility, all I can think about is how many unfinished love letters I have to all these places that I've been here. Because, no lie, I loved every place I visited this year. Every step out of Shanghai was its own adventure, a breath of fresh air, a great reminder of how big this country is and how many absolutely fantastic people are in it. And how nobody outside of China, heck, only a certain subset of people in Shanghai even, know about these places. A quote came by my feeds recently that I really resonated with. It goes, "Those who show no evidence of informed empathy, who can't be bothered with describing or trying to describe the view out of China's windows, their analysis should be discounted." Which was specifically about China's New Deal, but I feel like really applies to just about every take there is on China. And especially in these times where it feels like the media in the United States and its allied countries seem specifically really into the idea of having a war with China. I mean, what the actual... Well, while I'm not holding out hope of changing anyone's mind who already considers China this evil monolithic Borg that's hell-bent on destroying the Western world, I do at least want something on my record that documents my experience as an American who was here in the early 2020s. And the most recent location I went to was Wuhan to film a video for a client about ice hockey of all things. Yes, that now infamous Wuhan. That Wuhan that, depending on what media you consume, was either the Cassandra-like figure of a city that weathered 76 days in complete and total lockdown, fighting an unknown but deadly and contagious disease that it managed to overcome, only to watch the whole world not take it seriously and contract it itself for the next 18 months? Or backward hicks that eat weird animals and are at the same time sophisticated enough to be scientists that want to create a global dystopia with engineered viruses. I guess we don't really need to go there. I'm about to head into the land of crazy conspiracy theories, so I probably shouldn't add any fuel to the fire. Yeah, let's roll credits, people. But actually the first time I was there for a business trip, so we really only got barely the slightest chance to experience what the city is actually known for. So I have dragged my colleague Lou over here, who went to university in Wuhan, to join me in talking a little bit more about its charms.
Hi, this is Lou.
Yeah, so a little bit of history just to start off things, right? And I'll try to keep this short because I think any chat about Chinese history could end up taking the length of this entire video, right?
Yeah.
But Wuhan has been settled for almost like 3,500 years.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's been played a huge part of Chinese history, including being a huge part in the Three Kingdoms.
Yeah, it was one of the countries, kingships or something in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and it ended up getting defeated by one of the other countries, right? I think Chuguo.
Yeah, something like that.
It used to be Wuguo, right? Like the Wu country.
Right.
Around the time of the Three Kingdoms period is when one of Wuhan's most famous sites, the Yellow Crane Tower, was built.
Yeah, and more recently, it's actually where the 1911 revolution broke out. And that's actually led to the establishment of modern China.
Yeah, the 1911 revolution was when Sun Yat-sen and a whole bunch of other people, rebelled against the Qing dynasty and basically ended empires in China.
Yeah.
And also a fun fact, Wuhan is actually not just one city, right?
I would say it's 3 towns.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 towns. So there's Wuchang, there's Hankou, and here's Hanyang. So 3 towns, and the Yangtze River, Changjiang, kind of just go across.
And what are kind of like the characteristics of those 3 towns?
I would say Hanyang is the oldest one, and it's known for its like construction, industrial, blah blah blah. Like it has one of the oldest weapon factories. And Hankou, it has something similar to like Shanghai. It has concessions. So it has like old buildings and it has that finance vibe actually. And Wuchang will be kind of like the center, I would say, and actually where I hang out most. Because it's a big city and I was very lazy, I didn't hang out there much, but most of the time I was in Wuchang, and it's kind of like the politics and culture center.
Okay.
So there's so many universities or tourist place you can go.
Yeah, and it's now the 8th largest municipality in China, and some people have called it China's Chicago.
Oh my God, yes.
And you've actually lived in Chicago as well, so how do you feel about that characterization?
I don't know, honestly. Like, I do see some similarities between them two. Like, for example, because actually Wuhan got the name or the nickname, whatever, during the Republic of China period. So at the time, because of transportation and the location, for many different reasons, the economy there is really good. So it's similar to the position of Chicago is in the States. And right now, still, it's like a big city. The economy is still very important. Personally, I think the city has main culture or kind of like that vibe. Because, in Chicago, you can see many murals and many artists or musicians from there. And same with Wuhan. There are many different kinds of music or arts in the city, and also in the city there's a lake, there's a big lake, East Lake, Donghu, and also Changjiang goes across it. So like the water part is also similar to Chicago.
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't think about the geographical similarities. Yeah, well, how did you like living there? What else is kind of Wuhan known for in terms of like a living?
Well, first it's huge. Like I said, I didn't really like going out because like going somewhere else is like at least 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And actually, like even now, the city is still building its subway tracks. Like every time I go back, the subway is still under construction. Some new lines still being built. Other than that, I really like the people there. The people there, like Wuhan is kind of in the middle of China, so it has both north and south characteristics. And people there are actually very direct, straight, 直爽. Like you can see people yell at each other, like, very loud, and they're always ready for a fight, but also they're very friendly at the same time. It's strange, but
actually that's very like Chicago as well, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's what Chicago's supposed to be known for. I mean, like that's why they have like all this sketches about people who sit around and being like the Bears. So
I do know Chicagoans are known for Midwestern friendness. but I don't think they like talk to each other. Yeah, they like fight that much. I don't know.
Yeah, and also Wuhan is known for being very, very hot. Right, it's like one of the 4 furnaces of China.
Right, that's
from what I
very
hear.
true.
I think it's really funny, just completely as an aside, but China loves like listing places in numerical form, right?
Yeah.
But I don't actually know where the other 3 furnaces of China are, but
I know Nanjing is one of them.
yeah, but like I mean, last summer I think they said that temperatures in Wuhan got up to 40-some degrees Celsius, right? But that's actually relatively normal for them, from what I hear.
Yeah, I think so for most of the summers. But thank God, you know, for summers I was somewhere else for summer vacations. So.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, and thank God that we were visiting during the winter time. So.
Right.
And so I figured this is the perfect segue into other things that Wuhan is very, very famous for. And one of them is one of the reasons you were actually there. You were a university student and one of very, very many.
Yes, very many. Wuhan actually has more than 80 universities and colleges in China. It's like top 2 in the country. The top 1 is Beijing, of course. It's like more than 100. But yeah, there are different types of universities and colleges. Like the one I went to is Wuhan University. So that's like one of the oldest national universities in China. But there are also other kinds like PE school or, you know, dancing school or fashion school. Just, yeah, very many different kinds.
Yeah, wow. And there's like about 1 million students I've heard that are actually in the city at any given time.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And Wuhan University actually is also one of the main tourist spots of Wuhan, right? At least in non-COVID times.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So especially during April, I believe, it's like the cherry blossom season, and everybody just goes there to watch that. And it's like, it's on one road of our campus, and you know, on the sides there are the trees. So during that time, I would never go there because it's just hard to pass through people.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe.
Yeah, and actually there is actually a park, a cherry blossom park in Wuhan where you can go, and there are many more trees you can watch, you can see, and it's less crowded.
Okay, but for whatever reason, people just like going to Wuhan University. There must be like some sort of romance to it being on a university campus.
I suppose so.
Yeah, and there's actually also this area that was originally famous for where university students would hang out, right? Tanhualing.
Yeah. And I think there are still some like art schools around that area, so people still go. And I remember actually I went there to have like maybe 1 or 2 months of drawing class, like sketching.
Oh.
Yeah, with my roommates. I wouldn't say I got anything out of there. Like I'm just very poor at drawing, but it was a very interesting experience because you can see other students, or the art students, and also in Tanhualing, it's quite hippie, artsy vibe. You know, cafes or cute little shops you can hang out. Yeah.
Nowadays it's very what they call Instagrammable, like Wanghong.
Right, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think I read somewhere there that it was developed by the same people who did Xintiandi here in Shanghai.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they renovated it now, so it's all like fancied up a little bit. But
yeah, that's stupid.
one thing that we absolutely have to mention about Wuhan is the food, because actually the food is incredibly famous and not that soup famous.
Absolutely not. Yeah, there are quite a few things quite famous, like 热干面 and stuff, like top 1. And there are also people saying like some soup is famous, like chicken soup. I've never tried it, but some people say. And also 豆皮.
Yeah.
It's
like an egg omelet that they put glutinous rice into, and then like meat, tofu, and a third thing, because it's usually 三鲜豆皮, right? But like what is the third thing? I don't know. Peppers or something? Onions? I don't know.
Could be.
It was delicious.
Yes.
And then there's also like the 鲜鱼糊汤粉, right? Like that's a pretty famous dish from Wuhan as well. And it's basically like this mashed up fish that turns into kind of like a soup base, and then they put in the noodles. I really love their noodles there.
Oh yeah. And the fish is very fresh because it's close to a river.
Yeah. Oh, and then there was another thing that we ate, that one breakfast spot where we were having the 热干面.
油饼包烧麦.
Yeah, that was the first thing that's the first time I've ever seen like a carb stuffed into a carb, stuffed into a carb.
That's the beauty of breakfast in China.
Yeah, it's like, because Shanghai is like that dumpling, right? It's they have the glutinous rice in the dumpling skin,
Yeah.
but then they threw it into like a crunchy wrapper that they deep fried. So it's like a turducken of breakfast carbs. Also delicious.
Yes.
Quite heavy. But
It's very
delicious.
good. Yeah.
And what was that thing that you were drinking?
Oh, 蛋酒. It's if you translate it, it's like alcohol, but actually it's like 米酒. It's rice wine, and you put egg in it, swirled eggs in it, and it's quite delicious.
Yeah, it was kind of like a sweet version of an egg drop soup, but then with like little bits of what was Nomi in there. So rice, some sort of rice. Yeah. All right, if you haven't noticed, we have been talking a lot about breakfast foods, and that's because Wuhan is actually known as the breakfast capital of China.
Yes, absolutely. Breakfast is very important for Wuhan people. They actually have a term specifically for having breakfast, 过早. So, spending the morning or having breakfast. And you can see people eating breakfast while they're walking. They're just can't have enough breakfast, I suppose.
Most important meal of the day.
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting because when it comes to nighttime, then it seemed like really the only main option seemed to be like 烧烤, like some barbecue. Everywhere was barbecue.
Yeah. Like when we talk about nighttime, sometimes we think about clubs or going to KTVs or whatever. But in Wuhan, 烧烤 is very, very big. Like wherever you go, you see 烧烤店, barbecue 店. And my favorite barbecue thing, I would say it's like grilled oyster with garlic. 蒜蓉烤生蚝.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the fried mantou.
Oh, yeah. Carbonate.
I know. They're so bad for me, but I love them so much.
I know.
All right, well, that's basically what I brought you over here to talk about. So thanks so much, Lou, for your time.
Of course, it was fun.
I hope I get a chance to visit Wuhan again with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so I was thinking to myself, yes, it was really nice to get to go to Wuhan for the first time for a work trip. And it was really fantastic to have my two coworkers with me who obviously know a lot more about it than I did. But while I was there for the work trip, I really didn't get to experience the one thing that I did know about Wuhan pre-2019, and that was that it had an amazing live music scene. Vox Livehouse and Wuhan Prison are kind of legendary in the China music sphere, and it really seemed like a shame to me that I would possibly make a video about Wuhan and not be able to include them because I didn't get a chance to go. Well, I have extra vacation days, so why didn't I just take the chance to go? Who knows once I leave China when I will get the chance again. So that's what I'm going to do this weekend. I am going to Wuhan basically just because I want to experience the live music. Anyways, let's head out. So Wuhan is known as the birthplace of Chinese punk, and it really stemmed from one musician, Wu Wei, and his band SMZB. And those two places I mentioned, Vox Livehouse and Wuhan Prison, were both started by SMZB band members to be places where punk bands could actually play. There's a really great documentary about it called Never Release My Fist, 绝不松开我的杖头, which talks about how bands back then scrapped for their place in the city, supporting each other by living together, by sometimes stealing food for each other, by making each other's band posters. Vox Livehouse's founder, Zhu, and the drummer of SMZB, was one of the few people who could drum in that super fast 80s punk style, and so he apparently used to help drum for like 5 different groups at the same time. You can actually watch the whole documentary on YouTube, and I'll link to it below. Both venues had a pretty difficult time through the COVID lockdown period, but managed to survive. And in late 2020, SMZB even managed to return with a new album, which included one song about Lumo Road, where they got their start. So what's it like now in 2021? Well, they're both still around, which is great. Vox Livehouse actually relocated to a slightly cushier space about 20 minutes walk south of Lumo Road just a couple of months ago. Here's what it looked like previous to that. And here's what it looks like now. They've basically kept the same layout more or less, but it seems to have been fancied up a bit. The night I went was unfortunately not super punk. Instead, it was an acoustic set by a coffee shop folk-style singer-songwriter. So I didn't really experience much of that alternative energy per se. But apparently that's just kind of par for the course with Wuhan nowadays in general, even pre-COVID. In an interview with Sixth Tone, Vox's manager Li Ke had this to say: "Times have changed. Young people live much better than they used to. They just think, how can I pursue a comfortable life?" I don't know how to feel about that, and it's not like everyone who started out punk then went on to go towards this Norah Jones at Starbucks vibe. And in fact, there are bands out there that started out in the punk scene and then changed up their sound to something that's equally as interesting. But being from New York, I went there hoping for something more like that gritty old CBGB's vibe, and luckily for me, Wuhan prison still exists in all its dive bar glory. Granted, I don't know how long it's been since Wuhan prison went from just a punk bar to an adjoined bagel shop and takoyaki stand. But hey, the bartenders were appropriately uninterested. The music on one of their regular non-band nights was basically rockabilly hits. Everybody was smoking, and their bathroom graffiti was on point.
Yo, some Wuhan prison bathroom energy.
So, is that whole punk spirit still alive in Wuhan? To be honest, I can't really tell you because I've only been there now for 2 weekends in my entire life. I just know that I had a hell of a time popping in there to experience it, and to experience everything else that I did there for that matter. Anyway, whenever China opens, if it ever opens, I hope that people give Wuhan a chance. It was sad, but not surprising to see how quickly people were willing to vilify it when this pandemic first kicked off. When you know, I would say that just about any news post-April 2020, when Wuhan was already on the mend, kinda, to me at least, is proof positive that humanity in general is just really bad at dealing with a virus that's incredibly contagious, but not super deadly. Just kinda deadly. Like 700,000 people dead in the United States at this point. Deadly. After Wuhan was already waving goodbye to this horror show. Deadly. Oh my God, why can't the rest of the world get their crap together? In any case, I'm gonna be out of here in a month, but I'm really excited to show you all of the places that I explored, and I'm probably gonna turn whatever doesn't work as a 20-minute video into a bunch of shorts. Shorts, reels, TikToks, whatever, they seem to be all the rage these days. For instance, my food experiences. I'm really excited to show you what you should actually eat here in China. So you can look forward to all of that by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell, and also liking this video so that I show up in your algorithm. You can find me off of YouTube on my Instagram or now in my newsletter, which I actually have been releasing weekly. Go me! It's a little more focused on actual sustainability and ethical living than unfortunately this channel has been, it seems. You can find details in the description below. And see you next time doing whatever it is I happen to be doing.